Hello, everyone. Quite a nice event that you've got going on here. This is my first time attending. I am honored to be here. I go to a lot of conferences, and it's almost always industry people, trucking industry people, sprinkled in a few people from government that we actually like. Stephanie Mann, always at the top of that list. Captain Alan England, Tennessee Highway Patrol, occasionally on that list. But I'm really excited to be here today. In the trucking industry, this is what all our slide decks look like, okay? You got to have tires or tire tracks. You can have gears. I'm authorized to use both for this presentation. Anytime this screen is amazing, by the way. Anytime we're talking hacking, cybercrime, anything like this, you got this guy. Hoodie, mandatory. Nice investment in hardware here. This one has taken the additional step of completely obscuring their face, which is top-notch. Sarge, we're never catching this guy, right? No, you can't deal with the mask. This picture up here, I put this here for the smart people in the room to get it without any explanation. We're talking about cargo theft. If you don't get it, ask somebody sitting around you to help you out with that. You got to put your name up here, your face up here. Let them know who you are. Always sporting your company colors, by the way. But let them know who you are because this is as famous as you're ever going to get if you're in my position. But this is not what we're doing today. Today is a real treat for me, and I'm so happy because now we have academics in the room. We have researchers in the room, scientists in the room, and I'm really jealous of that. I loved school. I loved college. I would love to go back. When my wife and I married 25 years ago, she went straight to graduate school. She's now worked at Vanderbilt University for 20 years. Our daughter is a junior at Indiana University. We've got a son who's a junior in high school. He's going to be going to any university that allows him to play baseball and get an education at the same time. So I'm really jealous because I by nature, I love to think. My second favorite thing to do is think. And now we're amongst a bunch of thinkers. So I want us to think about this problem of strategic cargo theft. But I don't want to do it like this. We're going to put a more pleasing palette up here. How's that? That's better. We don't do it like this. And I'm very secure in my masculinity, by the way. Hey, this looks great. Okay? All right. Sometime in the past, there was a bad guy. This bad guy had 4 admirable qualities. Good hard worker, studies hard, prepares well, and most of all, and most deadly, patient. First thing this guy does, this is a real case scenario, by the way. This happened to us at our company. Hacks the dispatcher's email at one of our trusted carriers. So we are a motor carrier, but we also have a freight brokerage division. And this is where this happened. Email of one of the carriers that we hire to haul freight from that freight brokerage, their email was hacked. They were the actual target. We got drawn in here. Hack this dispatcher's email. This one is really good. Take some time to observe the way that dispatcher communicates. Do they say thanks or thank you? Do they say no problem or no worries? How do they structure the way they talk? Really, really good. Here is why this particular carrier was targeted, I believe. He registers a new domain name that is almost indistinguishable from theirs. Their domain name is ridiculous. It's long, it's got dots, it's got dashes, it's got B's, it's got D's. Very easy to change just one little thing and make it look like it's who we're supposed to be talking to. That's exactly what they did. They changed a B to a D, and it was on. So, get their own domain that looks almost exactly like theirs, registers an email under that domain, and he sits and he waits. Find the right one to test out his little trick. So on a boring old Tuesday, 8:30 a.m., bad guy decides to try it out on us. Says, I'm interested in this little load that you got, a little short run from Indiana to Missouri. We say, hey, this is one of our trusted carriers. This is perfect. Yeah, you got it. Price is right. Let's do it. We give them the load. We send over the rate confirmation, which includes the pickup number that they'll need when they go to the shipper. Business as usual. And now this guy's in. Work's paid off. You got a lot of different options that you can do at this point if you're the bad guy. You can just take what you got and say, hey, it worked. You could double broker the load. You could drive your own truck up there and steal it if you wanted to. Lots of ways to go. A little bit later that afternoon, the bad guy, who we still think is a good guy, says his driver is on site, but there are 4 trucks ahead of him. Shipper's calling, hey, where's your guy? Hey, look out the door. There's 4 trucks ahead of him. Okay, everything's good. Everybody's communicating. All is well. A little bit later that afternoon, bad guy, who we think is a good guy, confirms that he's in the dock. We say, hey, we're going to make sure. We call the shipper. Hey, is he in the dock? Yes, he's here. He's checked in. He's got the correct pickup number. Same one that was on the rate confirmation that we sent him this morning. Everything is all good. Shipper's happy. We're happy. All is well. Time for a side note. And you're saying, no, it's too early for a side note. This is a completely appropriate time side note. It's a note about shippers. The shipper said that the driver had checked in and had the pickup number. Said absolutely nothing about the carrier who was in the dock. Never went outside, never checked the side of the truck. All they wanted was that pickup number that was on the rate confirmation that we gave to the bad guy this morning. Not all shippers, if there are any shippers in the room, generally, any human being that walks into that shipping office with the correct pickup number will get loaded. All they see is a big empty trailer in the correct dock and this person. You could say, the side of the truck could say, I'm about to steal a load of freight. Y'all watch this. They're going to load them up. Doesn't matter. So, any guesses about what's about to happen? Okay. So, this bad guy, the guy in the hoodie with the mask on, decides he's also going to pretend to be a broker. He takes this load that we've awarded to him, and I keep saying him, it really is a guy. I know I'm at college, so I need to say I'm not just deferring to a masculine pronoun here. It really is a bad guy, and he turns into a broker. He rebrokers our load to a completely unsuspecting carrier. Just a little company that's looking for some freight to haul. So he gives it to them. That's who's in the dock. We don't know that, though. We carry on thinking everything is okay. So a little bit later that night, bad guy confirms he's loaded, even calls and says, hey, here's the weight. Just want to make sure I got the right thing. Want to communicate with you. We feel all warm and fuzzy. Shipper is happy. We're happy. All is not well at all. So Wednesday morning, 6:19. Remember, this load was supposed to deliver at 6 o'clock in the morning. We called just a few minutes later. Call our old buddy. Well, we email using the same chain from the bad email. Email and say, hey, just wanted to see if your guy got to Missouri okay. Yeah, man, let me check. And a very important clock has just started. 2 hours later, because we forget all about it. This is a trusted carrier. We know it's there. 2 hours later, the folks in Missouri that are looking for their freight tell us the driver's not in the dock yet. That's curious. Let's email our guy back up. Hey, remember that load you were checking on? They said he's not in there. I'll check again. Sorry about that. And a very important clock is still ticking away. Later on that morning, we get tired of waiting on our friend at our trusted carrier. Pick up the phone. Hey, man, twice now I've asked you to get back to me. What's going on? And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, the load that you guys picked up last night. Well, he didn't pick up anything for you. You must have been scammed. Rage and denial is the only way to put this. We didn't know what to do at all. It had been 14 and a half hours now since this load has been picked up. No experience in this before, and even if you are experienced, truck can go a long way in 14 and a half hours. Who are you going to call? Hey, police of the entire Midwestern United States, can you stop all the trucks and see if you can find the printers that we got stolen? No, it's not going to happen. And the longer you wait, that clock is ticking and ticking and ticking. So, later on that morning, not very much later, 2 minutes later, just a funny thing the universe does, the bad guy, who we now know is a bad guy, picks up the phone or emails us and said that, here's what happened. Our truck broke down. And I don't know what shop it's at right now, but just hang tight, and I'm going to figure this out. And we try and call him, doesn't answer the phone. We're still working on this bad email chain from this bad email. But he's just stringing us along here as that clock keeps ticking. Every minute that goes by, we're a little more lost. What do we do? What do we do? Because the longer it goes, our options seem more and more limited. So 11 o'clock that morning, bad guy finally answers the phone. He says, look, I'm trying to figure it out. Here, you work on it. Here is the driver's phone number. Text the driver. I don't have time to deal with this. And we're like, okay, well, if we can get the driver, we can get the load. We can figure out what's going on. So we think at this point, okay, he's communicating, giving us the driver's information. Worst thing that's going to happen here, they double brokered the load. This other company's going to deliver it. And, we're going to lose in this deal money-wise, but at least the load will get delivered, and we're not going to have a cargo claim for the whole load. So that's another way of us just standing there stupidly saying, maybe everything's going to be okay. And that's kind of what we were doing here. Another side note, as we got that driver's phone number, a few minutes later, one of our folks working in our freight brokerage said something looked very familiar about that number. It's the same number that was on the fake dispatcher's fake email in the email signature. So this person, who could be anywhere in the world, all they've used is a computer to steal this load, has played the role of a dispatcher, a broker, and now a driver. This guy is 100% in control right now. He has played us as well as he could possibly play us. So a little bit later that morning, we're trying to figure out what to do. Hey, let's call the shipper. Let's find out exactly who came in there. Do you have any video footage? Do you have any still shots, security cameras, anything like that? Hey, we've got the driver's name. We've got their driver's license. We've got some information on there. We don't know who the carrier is yet. We don't know who we loaded yet. But we got this. So we think we've got something. We start to feel a little bit better. Maybe everything's going to be okay. This is important here. Just a few minutes later, the bad guy calls again. He initiates the call. This is probably not the first one they've done. They wait just to the point where we're going to really start taking action, calling cops all over the country, and they string us along just a little bit more. Hey, I'm going to initiate this call and say, hey, I found out he's in Evansville, Indiana. At least that's a place, okay, we can recognize. Still won't give us the exact location of the truck. So much time has passed now. We're grasping at any little nugget that we can give, and this guy really played us. He gave us this nugget right here just to keep us at bay for a little while longer, and it totally worked. Later on that afternoon, we do get a call from the shipper. And the shipper says they have still shots from security camera of exactly who it was that came into that facility. So we call that carrier. We say, hey, we know you're innocent in this thing, but you're in it just like we are. Your driver just picked up a load that was double brokered, and it's been stolen, and we need your help. And they said, we're going to get a hold of the driver for some answers. At this point, the driver's asleep, they think, but they're trying to wake him up and they're trying to get some information from him. Unfortunately, they're unable to get a hold of him for the whole rest of the day. But we're thinking now, surely we're going to find this load now that we know what carrier picked it up and we have a line to the real driver. So we get to Thursday morning. We start trying to email, call, anything, trying to make any contact with the bad guy whatsoever, and gone completely dark at this point. But maybe everything will be okay. That's what we're still standing around saying to each other. So 7:30 that morning, finally, the carrier that picked up this load calls us and says, we've got in touch with our driver. Driver said he picked up this load on Tuesday just before 5 p.m. We say, yes, that's the one. Tell us everything that's happened. And the driver tells us everything that's happened. And here's how it happened. The bad guy is a broker, tells the driver that this is a blind shipment. He's not going to Missouri. He's going to take it to an alternate site. And this driver does what he's told. The broker is the boss in this situation. The broker's going to tell the driver where to deliver the load. That's all. That's his only job. Just do what you're told and take it where you're supposed to take it. Where's he supposed to take it? We need you to take it to an address here in Chicago, just down the road. The bad guy himself in this case is actually physically here. He's actually waiting in the parking lot when this driver arrives with this load that he stole. He didn't steal. The bad guy stole. Bad guy and the driver unload this into a parking lot, right onto the ground. Kind of seems a little shady if I was a driver. But the big kicker in this case is the driver is paid on the spot very, very well. Probably made a big difference in his life, at least for that week. And he was not inclined to ask a whole lot of questions. So when did this little exchange happen? 11 p.m. on Tuesday night, shortly after it was picked up in Indiana. Not a far jaunt to Chicago. Problem is, now it's Thursday morning. So who are you going to call? You might as well. Ghostbusters might be as helpful as anybody else here. So we start down the natural progression. We call the local police there in Indiana where it picked up. Got an incredibly helpful officer there. I don't remember. I was frantically calling people. He was pretty high up the chain. He was like, I don't even know how you got my number, but congratulations. I'm going to help you as much as I can. He gave us a report. You're going to need it for your insurance. You're going to have to get a report somewhere. He was at least kind enough to get us a report, but he's like, it's been 2 days, man. I don't know how I'm supposed to find your load. Then it called Chicago Police Department. I was kind of worried about calling Chicago Police. It's like, hello, Chicago Police. Everybody shut up and listen to me. We've had a load stolen. You know, it's a big place, and they're busy. But I called around, and I got a cop. I mean, this Chicago guy, this was like Hill Street Blues cop, for all you old folks. He was like, tell me where this happened. And I'm like, it happened here. And he's like, you give me 15 minutes. I'm sending 2 cars down there right now. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, do you want me to call you back? And he's like, or I asked him, it's like, you going to call me back? He's like, no, you call me back in 15 minutes. I'm going to have this done. I'm like, hell yes. I call him back in 15 minutes. He says, man, we went down there, we were ready for action, and there was nothing except a couple of old empty trailers in that parking lot. They were gone. No sign of any activity around the area. But it was cool. You got to call the shipper, let them know what happened. go ahead and voice your concerns once again that, hey, maybe next time go outside and just look and see what it says on the side of their truck. And I'm sorry, I'm a little angry about this. It's kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. You got to call the owner of the freight. You know, they called us as a broker and says, hey, I'm going to pay you so I don't have to worry about it. I want you to safely get my stuff from A to B. And we got to call them and say, hey, that stuff you trusted us with, we gave it to somebody else, a bad person. Sorry. And then you call your cargo insurance company. That's always fun. All right, so lessons learned from this. I've got a great job here. All I got to do is present the problem, and then you got a couple of much smarter guys than me that are that are going to tell us where we went wrong and what we can do about it. I think even they would agree. Your best bet is you got to stop this before it even starts. Once they get their hands on it, it's really tough. One measure that we've put in place right now, and it sounds like a lot, but I think it really makes a difference. When you get that email from your trusted carrier, call them up with the number that you know is theirs and say, hey, Joe, did you just send me an email about this load? And they'll say, yeah, I just sent it to you, silly. Or, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a much better time to get, I don't know what you're talking about, than wait until after the fact. Seems like an extra step, and it is an extra step, but one that's well worth it, especially depending on the value of your load. Confirm your cargo insurance coverage. I had a very tense moment that I don't even like talking about now. This was a couple of days afterwards, and the owner of our company walks into my office slowly, carefully, shuts the door behind him while maintaining eye contact with me the whole time, and says, how did we give a load away to a bad guy? And does our insurance even cover this? I have a lot of respect for our owner, and he's a friend of mine, and I told him the truth, that the answer to both those questions is I don't know, which he already knew that was the answer. But it was very difficult. In the end, our cargo insurance did cover this, only because our cargo insurance policy language was so vague that even though it didn't explicitly cover this, it was vague enough to where they couldn't say, that it wasn't covered. We got lucky there. So I would say if you are any way affected by this, or this could in any way happen to you, talk with your broker or your insurance agent and make sure that you've got insurance coverage for this. The important thing that we learned is to do something. We didn't know anything. We're about to learn some things. But I want you to enjoy thinking about this. This is the reason I'm so excited to be at this summit, because this is not the crowd that I'm used to talking to. And I love my trucking industry brothers and sisters more than anything in the whole world, but we think the same way on a lot of things. And I'm very interested to see what some of you folks have to say as you think about this problem. It's very, very significant. I don't know if Dr. Jones is still here, but for you data scientists and you people who are plucking information and data out of the universe and curating it for us, this is a problem now that is not something that you can just put over on the side and put a number on, like shrinkage in a retail job. This is a significant part of the equation as we're looking at the entire supply chain, which is what a lot of all of you are doing. When you're evaluating how is the supply chain working, how efficient is it right now, where is it slowing down, where is it speeding up, how much are we losing, you cannot ignore this anymore. We're talking around $35 billion a year that's going down like this. And it's not a supply chain that is running parallel to the legitimate supply chain, where you can evaluate it on its own. It's running in and out of the legitimate supply chain stealing resources from it every time it comes in. It's using legitimate supply chain people and resources to do bad stuff. So it's not an equation that you can just, that's very easy to come by. There are a ton of different ways that this can be done that these guys are going to be able to talk about. This is just one of them. It happens to be, from what I hear, probably the most common one right now. But think about this problem. It's a hard nut to crack. But I really appreciate the opportunity to present this to you at the summit. It's a very, very big part of our supply chain now, and appreciate all the efforts that everyone in here has given to help make things better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, how many people here are with industry? A few. What about law enforcement? Mostly law enforcement. That's good. I just wanted to gear the topic towards the majority of the audience. And I myself am retired law enforcement, and you know we run upon so many things out there. It makes it really difficult to know what to do sometimes. I mean, we all know when something goes missing, we try to find it. But what's the best avenue for that? And for law enforcement officers, the best avenue is, of course, the FBI. The FBI is going to know who to contact in that region that is familiar with the cargo theft. I think it was $35 billion lost last year in this industry. It was up 1,500% strategic cargo theft since 2021. The average loss per incident was $200,000, which is a significant amount of money. And how that affects carriers, which is where I am now and where Chris that just spoke, is that money, he said his insurance paid, but I can tell you what happened the year after that. His premiums went up. And so it affects the trucking industry tremendously with these thefts. If you've got people that you talk to about this, one of the most important things that you can do is train your employees. What we did is we sent our entire staff emails, and we would change something like he did, the D from the B. We would make up emails to see if people would open it, and they did. The first one we sent out was over a lunch. We're going to feed y'all tomorrow. About 90% of our employees opened it up, and it was a spam email. So we just started sending more and more and more until we got to the point where nobody was opening these emails without checking and verifying the address to make sure it was good. And I'm sure y'all been warned with state agencies. I know I had a position with the government, and we had the same thing, people trying to hack our emails. So protecting your assets. And that's what all of us are trying to do, is protect assets. Whether you're law enforcement, you're a motor carrier, you're a shipper, you're a receiver, the main thing we can do is protect those assets. Well, how do you do that? Well, first off, you got to make sure that the right people are in there getting it. As Chris showed in his slide, you had some guy that had more time on his hands than he wanted to go to work. So he figures out a way to scam. And I mean, if you're from Georgia in here, the capital of scam artists are from Georgia. And they'll tell you they run across more of it than you can ever see. And they will literally drive by a truck mechanic shop in Georgia, see your truck sitting there, call your carrier office and said, hey, we're finna work on your truck here, but we're going to need you to send me an EFS check before we start for this amount of money. Well, if that person working at your company don't call to verify that driver is there and they're requesting this, that they're going to send that check for that to get fixed, just like the load. So my next slide is how you protect your assets. You verify, and then you inspect what you expect. That's pick up that phone, just like Chris said. Make sure the person that sent you that or called you is really the person that called you, which seems elementary, but if you want to protect your assets, you've got to do that. You've got to inspect what you expect, and then you've got to re-verify that. Again, you can't verify it enough. Law enforcement, you're going to be put in, if you're notified of this, you're going to go out there and you're going to think the guy's right because that was a legitimate guy that picked that up. He just got conned into taking it somewhere that wasn't on the bills. This would be hard to happen to most carriers because evidently Chris's company let people use their own trailers. Because we use some independent contractors, but all the loads are on our trailers. Well, when all the loads are on our trailers, we have telematics and tracking devices on all our trailers. So we're going to know when that trailer bumped the dock if our load's supposed to be on that trailer. But telematics are a great thing, and it's something that y'all can use in y'all's investigations anytime you need anything for different things in law enforcement. Is know that most of these trucking companies have telematics that's going to tell you where that truck and trailer is at certain times. Most of them's going to have two. They're going to have them on the truck and on the trailer. In my case, we're going to have one on the truck and two on the trailers because the old cargo thefts knew to remove a tracking device from a trailer, so we put one that's pretty easy for them, and then we put an additional one on there, just so if they get the one that's easy off, we have another way of tracking it. But use that, guys. Know what these trucking companies have. If you have an incident that happens, if there's tractor trailers around those incidents, know that there's a possibility that that whole thing is on film somewhere. Jason, that's going to be speaking to you next, that we have a real good relationship with the police and around our area. So they know that if they need anything, they call us. So if they have something happen and you have a tractor trailer that was in the facility, you might have, if you get to them in time, and that's about 3 days for sure, that you might have a video of everything that happened and what you need. So not only did this trailer get hit, if Chris would have made that phone call and he said, hey, do y'all have video of this? He also could have said, were there any other companies there in the parking lot? Okay? So if you get to somewhere and you're dealing with this trucking company, there may be 2 more companies there that have cameras that can aid you in your investigation. So just because you're dealing with this one, don't think that's the only one that can help you. It may be 10 or 12 trucks out there that have the whole thing on film. May help you, may not. There was one in Memphis, about the same thing. An email gets hacked. They go to Bahia, Mississippi. I'm not going to mention any names. It was an appliance place. And they leave with a load of appliances out of there. They had a picture of the truck. They had a picture of the trailer. They had picked up somebody else's trailer and carried it in there to get it loaded. But not one thing was on that truck, just like Chris said. It could have said, I'm about to steal your load on the side of the truck. But that shipper never checked it. It didn't have any numbers on it. Didn't have any license plates on it. And they left that yard with a load of appliances. But just know that these trucks have a lot of technology on them that may can aid you in your investigations if you run across something like that. The network is the most important thing you have. See how straight I got that over the top of it? Organizations, both public and private. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of avenues out there that can help you. Chris works for the Memphis Police Department. He's also assigned to the cargo theft task force that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies are involved in. But they utilize the slide that was up there first, the Mid-South Cargo Security Council. It's a private industry that supports law enforcement. So there's certain equipment, as y'all all know, some things are hard to get from the government. It takes acquisitions, time. But the council is a direct support to our law enforcement. So if they need to go to a school, if they need certain equipment, laptop computers, if they need several things, night vision, there's been all kinds of things that the council has bought for them. But know if you've got that agency. Anybody from Texas out here? Any Texas people? Southwest Cargo Security Council is there. Mid-South is in Memphis. There's one in Chicago, I believe. Florida's, I saw a bunch of Florida people. They may not be in here now, but they've got the Tomcats in Florida. Miami-Dade is a good spot. Georgia had the GBI that was very involved, a guy named John Cannon that wrote the book on cargo theft. If any of y'all from Georgia know John, I think he's retired now, but I heard that they were getting that organization back together now. But you've got TAPA that's available. You got CargoNet that you can use. You got a National Insurance Crime Bureau, NICB that can help you. But there's several organizations out there that can support law enforcement and get you in contact with somebody you need. A unique story I have with cargo theft is I had a load stolen, and we knew it was in the Miami area. I would go to the cargo summit in Miami every year for several years. But when I notify you as law enforcement, y'all have such strict rules and guidelines that y'all have got to follow. And I understand that because I've been in your situation. So I hired a private investigator in Miami that didn't need a warrant to knock on anybody's door or walk around somebody's back gate. And so there's also people like that advertise, and you can contact some people, but I mean they charge you a flat fee. If we find your trailer, we'll charge you $5,000. Well, it's worth it to us. If we can recover a trailer load of merchandise, we're going to pay that guy $5,000 to find our trailer in a minute, fast. But there's all kinds of people that can help you if you know how to get there, and the FBI is going to be your best resource to call to get that help that you need. And then peers. That's just like the people in this room. Take time to meet everybody in here or somebody from everywhere with these agencies to where you have somebody in your Rolodex that you can pick up the phone and call if you need help. It's very important. These summits and be able to be around people from different places, they're invaluable. I can't tell you, and there's a lot of people in here that can tell you that I've called them at different times, but I've known them for years. In Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas. I know somebody in every state that I can call. And that's what I told Chris, that the best thing he can do when he comes to a place like this is get out there and swap business cards. Because industry people don't know who to call. They don't know who to call. So with that, we'll save this question slide for later on. But that's all I got. Unless y'all have some questions for me, I'll be available after the next speaker.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Jason Moore, obviously with the slide. I'm with the Memphis FBI Cargo Theft Task Force. I'm not going to try to put you all to sleep because I know it's after lunch, so just bear with me a minute. I've known Ken Sutton for several years now. We've worked together quite often, and I can tell you from a law enforcement perspective, the number one enemy when it comes to combating strategic theft is time. Because by the time the shipper puts it on the truck and the trailer, it gets going, and then the receiver finally says, hey, it's not here. How many days does it typically been? 3-4 days. In Chris's scenario, it got picked up on Tuesday. Thursday, they still didn't know where it was. But it had made it from Indiana to Chicago in 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever it was. We're getting it on the back end, so we're having to backtrack and bring it back from first point of start. Now, when it comes to reporting strategic theft, you're going to find that most local agencies are going to balk at taking a report because they don't know the ins and outs of it. So it really behooves you as the carriers, as the brokers, to have all your information to say, look, this is where it happened. Where the product is picked up, that is where the theft occurred in the instance of this. This is the FBI Cargo Theft Task Force in Memphis. It's Special Agent Kerry McDougal, myself, and David Hallam. There's 3 of us for all of Memphis. We do not all of the cargo theft. All the strategic theft, we take care of. Pilferages from semi-trucks, unless it meets a certain threshold, we don't touch it. It falls down to our local investigators. When it comes to whole trucks, trailers, we investigate those crimes. Here's some resources for y'all that the FBI has. The FBI has major theft task forces. There's Los Angeles, Ventura County, which is the Los Angeles Basin, Memphis, Tampa, Miami, New York, Midland, El Paso, and then obviously the Washington Field House is the major command for it. That's where the big boss works out of. So if you have anything in any of these areas, you can reach out to that local FBI office, and they can get you in touch with somebody that does cargo theft. And there's also cargo theft task forces on the state levels, like California's got a great one, CTIP. They are more than happy to help. They are out there every day knocking in these doors of these warehouses and getting back a lot of people's product. Here's some other resources. Like Ken said, you've got the Mid-South Cargo Security Council, which Memphis, we're a part of that. We go to their meetings. They help us out. You have the Midwest Cargo Security Council, which is run out of Indiana, I believe, up around the Fort Wayne area. Their chairman is a employee of Travelers. So Travelers is well invested in that Security Council. You got J.J. Coughlin down at the Southwest Transportation Security Council in Dallas, or Rockwall. You have CargoNet. If you ever look at CargoNet, they send out, whenever carriers or brokers or anybody has anything stolen, they send out alerts to the local law enforcement all across the United States. And then you have Transportation Asset Protection Association, which is TAPA. TAPA is the security forum for the shippers, and that's where their main point of emphasis is around the shipper and security of their product. Case study, from what we've seen, what I've dealt with the past year is shipper utilized a broker. The broker, the bad actor, was able to steal the broker's information. He got their email address, took that email address, changed it by 1 character, and was able to emulate the broker's information. That broker then went out on a load board and said, hey, shipper, I'll take that load and we'll see what we can do with it. The bad actor then went out and stole 2 carrier identifications via the email, changing the character, accepted those loads, and then the bad actors picked the load up, picked both loads up, turned around, double brokered it to 2 legitimate companies. Those legitimate companies, well, let me back up. When the bad actors, they picked up the loads, they took it to a cross dock in Memphis. They picked it up in Mississippi, drove it across into Tennessee, took them to a cross dock. The cross dock held the product for 2 legitimate carriers to pick it up. When the 2 legitimate carriers picked it up, the bad actors paid with the cross dock by Zelle. Is that common in the trucking industry, is to pay with something by Zelle? Would that not raise red flags?
That's how our driver that took, or not our driver, but that driver that took that load to Chicago, bad guy paid him in that parking lot with Zelle.
With Zelle. So the bad actors, they are doing this all the time. They're paying with Zelle. For whatever reason, it's easy, and nobody asks any questions. So if you're getting paid by Zelle, you need to go, whoa, wait a minute. That's not, let me make some phone calls. And educate your drivers on that. Your drivers, of course, they're trying to make their money and whatnot, but if it's not industry norm, they should be asking questions. So when they dropped it off the cross dock, was picked up at the cross dock, and then driven to California. One trailer is gone. They were able to recover one full load. But when the driver got to California, the bad actors called him and said, hey, bring it to this parking lot, empty parking lot, showed up with 2 box trucks, transloaded it from the trailer to the box trucks, and they paid the driver with cash. The driver never asked any questions. Now, is that industry norm? No. To me, that would not be industry norm, and questions need to be asked. So again, education of drivers and getting your drivers comes back to, where's she at? I don't know where she went. Integrity. There's an integrity issue there. If your driver is taking cash in an empty parking lot for some product, that's an integrity issue. I'm sorry. So, that also needs to be addressed. I guess that's it for that. There's a couple other cases that we've seen is the bad actors, even bad actors will go out with their own trucks and they'll go on load boards, pick up the loads, and they'll go, just drive off with them, take it. Trying to think of another case recently that I've had where it was not industry norm. And I don't know if there's any shippers in the room, but if there are any shippers in the room, if you're at your distribution house, you need to have your employees take pictures of these trucks, take pictures of the tags, trailer numbers, any markings on the trucks, because that stuff can all be tracked back and find where we can trace those tracks of those trucks and trailers. Video is great. It helps us out a lot. Now, when it comes to legitimate drivers picking up for bad actors, it does help us out a little bit. One thing I can see, one thing that I've noticed that in this industry, and I've only been doing this for 4 years, the cargo theft thing, is technology is really our worst enemy also, because nobody wants to pick up a phone and make a phone call. It's all done by email. I've seen several loads that all the correspondence was all done by email, and no one ever picked up a phone or even got on the internet and went, okay, this is the company, this is the company. Let me call this company and find out if they picked it up. They're not, the cases I've had, they've not even done that. So now I'm having to go back, or we're having to go back and backtrack all that and get that information. And when it comes to the email stuff and the phone numbers that they're using, it takes a long time. And by the time we get those IP addresses back for those emails, guess where those emails are coming from? Overseas. So the chances of finding that person who's sending that email is really slim to none. And the phone numbers they're using are typically voice over internet property phones, and they don't come back to anybody. Some other things that I've seen, and it wasn't my case, but I helped out a case out of North Carolina recently. A international company was shipping some stuff out of North Carolina. Broken the load was picked up by a company out of Memphis. They called me and said, hey, and this is where it comes. I heard someone say earlier, partnerships. She used, this company, we deal with a lot with TAPA, because we go to the TAPA conferences. And she calls me and says, hey, I've got a company that picked up my load. He's out of Memphis. His load is gone. Can you help us out? I said, okay, yeah. She gave me the information. I went and knocked on that guy's door and didn't realize, I had heard this was happening. And he goes, oh, I sold my MC number. I sold my MC number. I sold my phone number and my email address. He showed me the contracts, the scribbled hand signature, you couldn't read it. But in his contract, he said they were allowed to use his email, phone number, and MC number for 30 days. I said, well, where'd you sell, how'd you sell it? He goes, oh, I sold it on Facebook at mc4sale.com or whatever it was. So that's another problem. There are several Facebook pages. I've found several websites that you can go out there and sell these companies are selling their MC numbers, and that's also leading to a lot of the strategic theft. I'm sure there's a lot more things I could probably touch on. Now, if you carriers have anything in Memphis, I can tell you this, if your driver has to come to Memphis and stop overnight, tell them to park in a manner that they can secure that back door. If they can secure that back door, your product will be there when he wakes up the next day. The days of parking out in the middle of a Walmart parking lot or an empty mall parking lot, that can't happen anymore, especially in Memphis, because there are groups that drive around Memphis and they're driving stolen cars, and they just take the opportunity and pick the weakest target. Does anybody have any questions for me? Is there anything anybody wants to ask me? Anything I can point out to you that I didn't touch up here?
How should they get payment? They shouldn't take Zelle and they shouldn't take cash. How do they usually pay?
I mean, like again, I'm fairly new to the trucking industry payment world. I know you have EFS checks.
That's right, fuel checks.
Fuel checks
Comp
and
data,
stuff like that,
EFS.
comp check data. That stuff is easily traced, I would say, than, because it links back to a bank account to some sort.
Questions? I have the mic. I can bring you the mic. You don't have to come to me. Do you cover just Memphis?
So yes, I do, can go down into Mississippi a little bit. So when it comes to state prosecutions, it's just Memphis. But when it comes to federal prosecutions, if an AUSA, U.S. Attorney's Office picks up a case, then I can go down to Mississippi as long as the U.S. Attorney in Mississippi is willing to take that case. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to take every case that I have federal. But let's face it, and it's been said for years, property theft is not sexy. Violent crime trumps pretty much everything, especially in Memphis and West Tennessee. So our federal cases are low in numbers.
Were you involved in getting the penalties stiffened in Tennessee? Were you involved in that? But one thing I can tell you that a lot of states, these are almost misdemeanors, cargo theft. And so what we had to do in Tennessee is we had to present it to our state legislatures and try to get stiffer penalties where it would be some repercussions for this happening. So if you're in a state, you may want to check and see what the penalties are for cargo theft. But the reason why a lot of gangs and organized crime units do this is because of the lack of stiff penalties.
I can tell you this, at least in West Tennessee, our folks that used to do drugs are getting away from the drugs because they get more time for doing drugs than they do for stealing cargo out of the back of the truck or off of a train. So that's just the world we live in at this point in time.
Chris, I guess y'all were just out. Your cargo?
Yeah, we did. There was very little chance of recovery, and because we didn't have these resources. If I had talked to Ken a few days before, maybe we would have had a chance at getting that load. So no, that's been sold elsewhere, and cargo insurance took care of it. Of course, one point I didn't make was even if your cargo insurance does cover it, like Ken said, eventually your premium's going to go up, and in most cases, you're going to have to pay a deductible per occurrence. So it's not going to be like a deductible and you're done for the year and you can have all the freight stolen you want. No. And that, that deductible may range anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000 per. So it's not good business to get a load stolen.
Jason, would you spend, since it's mostly law enforcement in here, will you just talk a little bit about how you would have tried to find that on the internet? How y'all,
So,
talk a little bit about that.
I mean, obviously, we're gonna get it on the back end, because Chris, they didn't call the police until, Thursday. So, we would go back to the shipper, we would go to the shipping document, ask them for a video, see if there was any tag information for the truck, the trailer, any type of video in the surrounding areas. We can't.
I was thinking more on how y'all would have went to Craigslist, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, and got lot numbers, and how y'all would have tried to go that.
So that's another thing. When it comes to the product, if you've got something with serial numbers, make sure that gets reported to the officers. Because without a serial number, we can go out on Facebook Marketplace, we can go on Craigslist, we can go on eBay, but without having a serial number or anything identifiable that's not a generic number, if they take pictures on, like my partner Dave, he had a case where some electronics showed up on eBay, and the dummy decided he was going to take a picture of the labels, and he took a picture of the serial number. Well, we were able to backtrack that to the company and say, hey, is this serial number the serial number of any of the stuff that was stolen off of your truck? The shipper says, yes, that's our stuff, and this is the day that was stolen. So my partner Dave was able to secure a search warrant for eBay, got that guy's information, got his address, got his phone number and all that. And once we did that, he was able to write a search warrant for that gentleman's house. When we got that gentleman's house, we found a whole bunch of other stolen stuff. We actually ended up calling Ken, because Ken was lucky enough to be a good relationship. Ken brought us a 53-foot trailer, and we filled it up from this guy's house. That's how much stolen stuff he was just a fence. He wasn't the one stealing it. He was just a fence. They would go out and steal it, bring it to him. He would give them pennies on the dollar for the stuff, and he'd turn around and sell it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. So if you have serial numbers, yes, that helps us out a lot when it comes to getting it back on resale sites. I can tell you I've had recently back in January, there was a company out of Chicago that had 27 trailers stolen, 27 loads fictitiously picked up. And so far to this date, I think we've recovered probably 10 to 11 of those trailers across the United States through partnerships with other FBI agents, through California Highway Patrol, and because when they stole it, they took it to California, they put it on a wholesale resale site, buy whole pallets stuff, and it showed up at one of our resale warehouses in Memphis. And I was able to get back one full truck of that product, and through that investigation, spread out through 3 other locations across the United States. So we were able to get back quite a bit of that product. I can tell you, when it comes to brokering loads, picking up loads, vet these carriers, vet these brokers the best you can. Don't ever take them at face value. Do a little bit of digging, and it'll save you a whole lot of work on the back end.
A good website for law enforcement personnel to check and see if the carrier is legitimate is fmcsa.dot.gov. Go to Safe Assist, get a carrier snapshot, and it will tell you if that's an active carrier with good insurance and they're legitimate. It's a very good site for you to use out there in the field to check and see if you've got one with suspicious. Go to that site, and it's a
I do use that quite a bit. It does not help if they sell their MC number because they get that information also. So,
Or their brother don't win with the grease mark.
right. And they have, you know, I've had them where they'll bring the truck in and they'll take tape and piece of paper and tape over their truck name with the correct information and just goes on down the road. Nobody else has anything?